This racist pilot made the worst mistake of his life when he told this black woman to move seats because she was secretly the FAA's top inspector conducting an undercover audit. While he's humiliating her in front of first-class passengers, she's discovering he's been falsifying safety records for 2 years, putting 50,000 lives at risk. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories like this one, because what happens when this plane lands will destroy his entire career in minutes. At 35,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean, Dr. Angela Thompson had no idea that the captain's voice crackling through the intercom was about to trigger the most expensive mistake in aviation history. She sat quietly in her first-class seat, 2A, the premium window spot she'd paid $4,200 of her own money for, when something caught her trained eye that made her blood run cold. You see, Dr. Thompson wasn't just any passenger on Flight 447 from Atlanta to London. Behind her calm exterior and designer glasses was a secret that would soon destroy lives and careers. She was the FAA's most feared aviation safety inspector, the woman whose reports had shut down unsafe airlines across 3 continents and saved thousands of lives. But today, she was supposed to be invisible, traveling incognito on her first vacation in 3 years. That's when she noticed the emergency equipment panel above her seat, flashing warning lights that should never, ever be illuminated during flight. Her heart rate spiked as her investigator instincts kicked in. Something was terribly wrong with this aircraft, but she had no idea that the pilot's discrimination was about to hand her the evidence she needed to expose a conspiracy that went far deeper than anyone imagined. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a seating issue that needs to be resolved immediately. Captain Derek Morrison's voice boomed over the intercom. Flight attendants, please assist with passenger relocation. The words hit Dr. Thompson like ice water. In 15 years of flying, she'd never heard an announcement like that. Within minutes, head flight attendant Rebecca Cole approached with a smile so fake it could have been plastic. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to move to economy. There's been a mistake with your ticket. Dr. Thompson's pulse quickened, but her voice remained steady. There's no mistake. I have my boarding pass and credit card receipt right here. She held up her documentation, but Rebecca's eyes never left her face, never glanced at the proof. I understand your confusion, Rebecca said, her voice sharpening like a blade. But Captain Morrison has requested that you move. Immediately. The first-class cabin fell silent. Phones emerged from pockets as other passengers began recording. Completely unaware, they were documenting what would become Exhibit A in a federal investigation that would rock the aviation industry to its core. I'd like to speak with the captain, Dr. Thompson said, her words carrying an authority that made Rebecca's fake smile falter for just a moment. The captain is busy flying the plane. You need to gather your belongings and move now, or we'll have to involve security when we land. But Dr. Thompson was already working, her trained eyes cataloging every detail, her phone discreetly documenting something that made her hands tremble with rage. The emergency systems panel wasn't just showing warning lights. It was displaying multiple violations that could ground the entire aircraft. Oxygen mask deployment systems failing, emergency lighting that had never passed safety checks, exit door seals showing dangerous pressure warnings. This wasn't just discrimination anymore. This was about every single passenger's life hanging in the balance, and somehow, she knew it was all connected. Fine, Dr. Thompson said, rising slowly, her mind already racing through federal protocols. I'll move, but I want the captain's name and employee number for my complaint. Rebecca smirked with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Captain Derek Morrison, employee 447,291. Good luck with that complaint, honey. If Rebecca had known what Dr. Thompson was really thinking in that moment, she would have run straight to the cockpit and begged Morrison to land the plane immediately. Because as Dr. Thompson walked through the aircraft toward economy, she wasn't just moving seats. She was conducting an impromptu federal safety audit that would end careers and potentially send people to prison. Her trained eyes caught everything other passengers missed. Expired safety certificates tucked behind panels, equipment improperly secured, maintenance logs that looked like they'd been doctored. By the time she reached her reassigned seat in the back of the plane, She had documented enough violations to shut down the airline for months. But the real revelation came when she quietly began interviewing fellow passengers. Maria Santos, a Latina cardiologist, whispered about being moved from first class the previous month. James Kim, an Asian tech executive, described the exact same experience. The pattern became crystal clear. Minorities who paid full price for premium seats were being systematically relocated for mysterious computer errors that only seemed to affect passengers of color. Dr. Thompson's hand shook as she connected to the aircraft's Wi-Fi and used her government security clearance to access something no regular passenger could ever see: the plane's real-time maintenance records. What she discovered made her stomach drop, like the plane was falling from the sky. Captain Morrison hadn't just discriminated against her. He'd been falsifying safety inspections for over 2 years, signing off on equipment that hadn't been properly maintained, all to save the airline money. The faulty emergency systems she'd noticed weren't accidents. They were part of a systematic cover-up that put every single passenger's life at risk. Morrison had been trading human lives for profit margins and using his position to silence anyone who might complain by targeting minorities who were more likely to file discrimination reports. As the plane began its descent into London, Dr. Thompson made a phone call that would change everything. Her secure government phone connected simultaneously to the FAA Emergency Response Team and the Department of Transportation's Civil Rights Division. "This is Inspector Angela Thompson, badge number 7749, she said quietly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I'm currently on Flight 447, tail number N447AA, and I need immediate ground support for a Level 1 safety violation and federal civil rights investigation." The response was immediate and devastating. By the time Flight 447 touched down at Heathrow Airport, it was surrounded by a small army of federal investigators, aviation safety inspectors, and civil rights attorneys. Captain Morrison stepped out of the cockpit expecting to complete another routine flight, whistling casually as he prepared to head home to his family. Instead, he found his entire world crumbling around him. Dr. Thompson approached Morrison with the same calm dignity she'd maintained throughout the 8-hour nightmare. "Captain Morrison, I'm Dr. Angela Thompson, FAA Chief Safety Inspector." She paused, letting the words sink in as his face went from confusion to horror. "I believe you wanted me to move seats." The blood drained from Morrison's face so fast, he looked like he might collapse right there on the jetway. The woman he'd humiliated, discriminated against, and tried to silence wasn't just another passenger. She was one of the most powerful people in aviation safety, and she'd just witnessed him committing multiple federal crimes at 35,000 feet. "You have the right to remain silent." Agent Sarah Martinez began as handcuffs clicked around Morrison's wrists. "But you're going to want the best lawyer money can buy." The fallout was swift and absolutely devastating. Morrison was immediately suspended, facing federal charges for civil rights violations, fraud, and endangering passenger safety. His 20-year career vanished in an instant, and he was looking at 15 years in federal prison. Rebecca Cole was terminated and blacklisted from the entire aviation industry after investigators discovered she'd been complicit in discriminatory seating practices for 3 years, targeting dozens of minority passengers. The airline faced $47 million in fines and was forced to implement comprehensive civil rights training that would cost millions more. But the real earthquake came during the full investigation. Dr. Thompson's audit revealed that Morrison's falsified maintenance records had affected over 200 flights, putting more than 50,000 passengers at risk of catastrophic equipment failure. The airline's stock price collapsed 40% in a single trading day. The CEO resigned in disgrace. Congressional hearings were announced. Dr. Thompson received a commendation from the Secretary of Transportation and was promoted to head a brand new aviation civil rights enforcement division, a position created specifically because of what she'd uncovered in those terrifying 8 hours above the Atlantic. 6 months later, at Morrison's sentencing hearing, Dr. Thompson stood before the judge with the same quiet dignity she'd shown at 35,000 feet. "This case isn't just about one man's prejudice or one airline's greed," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the packed courtroom. "It's about the fundamental principle that every passenger deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race. When we fail to uphold these principles, we don't just harm individuals, we undermine the safety and integrity of our entire aviation system. Morrison was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $2.3 million in restitution to affected passengers. As he was led away in shackles, his legs barely supporting him, Dr. Thompson couldn't help but appreciate the devastating irony of it all. The man who had told her she didn't belong in first class had found his permanent seat in a federal prison cell, and the quiet woman he tried to humiliate had just changed the aviation industry forever, ensuring that no passenger would ever again be told they didn't belong simply because of the color of their skin. Sometimes the person you underestimate is exactly the person who has the power to destroy everything you've built. And sometimes justice doesn't just knock. It comes crashing down like a plane falling from the sky. Never underestimate who you're dealing with. If this gave you chills, smash that like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping justice stories. What would you have done? Comment below. Until next time, Visionaries.